What's up, YouTube, Facebook, and all the other social media outlets? It's your boy, Uncle Fred, back in the house. One more again, some more content. Well, it's a lot of stuff I got to get to. We're going to try to knock it out real quick. Been a while since I've been with you. It's been about a week, but, there's no game. So, really, we just got to talk about the soap opera that is the NFL, the coaching, the lawsuits, and there's some other things to talk about. And we're gonna go knock that stuff out real quick. Go ahead and hit that like, comment, and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so the NFL got some news, a few things, just a few things to clear up the docket. First thing, Tom Brady. In our last discussion, we talked about Tom Brady and his decision to retire. And, everybody's done all the gushy, send-offs, and myself included, on him, in stellar, one-of-a-kind career, one-in-a-million career, best career anyone's ever had in a sporting venue. But I guess yesterday on his podcast, Let's Go, talking with Jim Gray, and he says, never say never. So is Tom Brady waffling back and forth like some other players have done, like Aaron Rodgers had been doing? Ooh, you know what? I might retire. Brett Favre was doing, and, retiring. You know what? I'm not retiring. Hey, I'm retiring. Look, a dude is as accomplished as Tom Brady. I guess he can do whatever he chooses to do, but don't come back in here telling me like you're different from all these other divas and things of that nature, and you're not seeking attention and all that sort of stuff. Like a lot of people believe Aaron Rodgers does and Brett Favre is doing. Hey, and all that sort of stuff. He's supposed to be different. And look, man, he played 22 years, and I get it. And, half of his life he's played in the NFL. Okay. 22 years, he's 44. Okay. So half of his life he's played in the NFL. So that's, so I get that he may not be sure what he wants to do. I get all that. Okay. Family and the business ventures are calling for him and needing his attention. But here's the thing. The thing is that he could have easily kept his mouth shut until after the Super Bowl and after all these festivities and not make himself the talk of the town. Because look, if you're going to retire, ride on off into the sunset, let Joe and Matt Stafford, let them have their time. They're in the Super Bowl now. Let them have their time. When you were in your thing, nobody was upstaging you. And I don't know if that's what he's doing, but that's what it kind of seems to me like he's doing. Like, Tom, if you didn't know you was going to retire, nobody told you to talk about this the week before the NFC and AFC championship games. Somehow it got leaked out. What I get it. And he should have just came for us and said, look, man, it's something I was thinking about, but I have not made a determination yet. So y'all stay tuned and just leave it alone. But then he's coming back. The Super Bowl is this week, and he's, dude, get out of the limelight. Let these new guys have their say, man. And I'm not for any of the grandstanding and all that sort of stuff. So, Tom, dude, do what you're going to do. Like the old folks used to either, do that or get off the pot. And you know what that do what is. You know what I'm saying? Either or get off the pot. Okay. All I'm going to say about that. Next thing, and just a little thing. You remember the conversation and the story we heard about DeShazor Everett? Do you not? He was the safety / special teams captain of the Washington football team, now to be called the Washington Commanders. Okay, don't know if I've talked to y'all about that or not, but they're the Commanders now. Anywho, he was charged with involuntary manslaughter. We know the story. His girlfriend who was visiting, along with two other Washington football team players who were in the car. I think it was first reported they were behind him, but now it's reported that he was in front of them, and they lost control of the car, and it rolled down an embankment, and the girl got thrown from it, so I think it was on the couple of days before Christmas. Everett appeared in London County Magistrate's office on Tuesday and released on $10,000 bond. He was a driver of this Nissan GT that, according to police, left the right side of the roadway, struck several trees, and rolled over on the side on the night of December 23rd. And the passenger, Olivia Peters, 29, died later in the hospital. Statement said Everett was traveling over twice the posted speed limit of 45 miles per hour just prior to the crash. Says here now he was also Jamin Davis and Benjamin St. Just were traveling in the car ahead of Everett, and the group had just gone out to dinner. A witness told a 911 dispatcher that the car was trapped in trees after it had flipped over. DeShazer himself spent 4 days in the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. He has played with the Washington football team since 2015 and was a key special teamer and a backup safety. He was a special teams captain since 2018. So, we were talking about that story a couple of months ago. Just another saga in the year of the Washington football team, which is now the Washington Commanders, a year they'd like to forget. But, their new name, new prospects, new horizons to cross, and maybe, new things. But, yeah, I thought that was kind of sad for that to have taken place, whatever. But yeah, he's been charged with involuntary manslaughter in that, maybe because he driving, and it's been yet to be determined if he was over the legal limit, for alcohol intake or anything of that nature. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Now, while we're talking about criminal activity, I got to talk about Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara on the Saturday night or early Sunday morning before the Pro Bowl. He was a participant in the Pro Bowl. We'll talk about that in a minute. But apparently he got into an altercation Sunday morning. It's around 6:30, coming out of a casino after dark cafe. Apparently, according to video surveillance, he and a group of people, including his girlfriend and 2 or 3 other people, were waiting at an elevator with another gentleman who was not a part of their party, waiting for an elevator to take them up to the next thing. And apparently the person was conversing with the group. And then when the elevator came, the man went to get onto the elevator with them as it came to pick them up. And Kamara held his arm out like, "No, bro, this ain't for you," and pushed him back. And the dude was like, "Man, get your hands off of me." And then when he did that, Kamara shoved him and made him go backwards. And then, of course, a melee ensued, and he ended up punching him several times. And then the entourage that was with him proceeded to hit him several times and knock him to the floor, and then proceeded to kick and stomp this gentleman several times. One of his entourage was reportedly stick kicking him in the face, chest, and legs at least 16 times. And the man suffered a broken orbital bone, nasal fractures, and a bunch of other injuries. And of course, Kamara went on and played in the Pro Bowl. And of course, he was and of course, I think the guy was not able to identify or say anything because he was unconscious. He was knocked unconscious through all of this. And then when he gained his consciousness, he was able to tell them, what happened, and they picked him up, and they released him on bail or whatnot. But I'm gonna say this: I know they talked about it at length on this morning on Undisputed, and Shannon pretty much said it best. That dude, you know what, man? When you're a celebrity and you're going out in these places, sometimes you gotta take the long, take the, you know, sometimes you gotta take the long road, man. You know, sometimes, uh, apparently, according to KAMARA, he called somebody in his entourage ugly or something. Whatever, man. He said, dude, he came around and was going back and said, man, I'll whoop y'all's butts or whatever. Whatever. Sometimes, man, when you got a lot to lose, and I think KAMARA just got a nice contract, dude. You got a lot to lose. Look, dude. I mean, yeah, all right, man. You think that's fine, man, bro? Have a nice evening. You go about your business. And then if you got an entourage with you, look, man, these hangers-ons that be coming around and hanging around people that are famous. Look, your main job is to keep your guy out of issues. Okay, your job should have been to grab Alvin, pull him on in the elevator, let that dude went on about his way. That's what you should have done. Okay, now you done got your boy hemmed up and you exacerbated the issue. And look, man, and Alvin gotta know the people you hang around can either make you or break you. And you gotta, and these guys gotta stop having guys around them that are yes men that go with whatever you say. Sometimes you will say, bro, no, we let's move on. Let's move on. So now he's got this to deal with. Oh, he gonna get some charges for this. I guarantee you this. If that video surveillance is accurate, like it looks like it was, he might get some time for this, and he's definitely gonna get suspended for this. He's gonna miss a lot of change as a result of this. So let this be a lesson to all you young people. Sometimes you can take an L, as long as nobody's not putting their hands on you, as long as somebody's not actually doing something to you. Dude, sometimes you just take the high road. It's okay. All right, it's all right. Don't matter. Take the high road. You ain't losing nothing. Okay, you live to fight another day. I sound like Craig's daddy on Friday. You live to fight another day. You win some, you lose some. You live to fight another day. But then, no, I got to stomp this dude out. Now you're going to have some charges. And you're going to get sued. I guarantee you that. Because I would do it if you did that to me. But anyway, man, these guys going to learn. They're going to learn one way or the other, man. So that's all I got on that. Next thing, Colin Murray, superstar quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are coming off that disappointing loss. What was it, like 36-12, something like that in the divisional round in the NFC playoffs? Had a QBR of 8, I think, in that game. Was not good. Threw a bad interception from his own end zone. Guy caught it at the 3 and ran into the end. Now, I don't know what has been going on between him and the Arizona Cardinals, but it's been noted that he has, because this is a new thing, because this is what these young folks do. He has unfollowed the Arizona Cardinals, and he's gone through all of his social media outlets and scraped them clean of anything that resembles Arizona Cardinals gear, memorabilia, or anything of that nature. Okay, his Instagram and all his others, had pictures of different things. The only pictures in there is a picture of him at the Pro Bowl with, I think it was CD Lamb, and his Heisman Trophy picture. Okay, that's it. Nothing having anything to do, even resembling anything representing Arizona Cardinals. Been completely scraped clean from his Instagram and his Twitter and all of his social media platforms. Everything has been done away with. And it's been said that he was on Twitter, kind of having a Twitter flirt, if you will, with Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So could that mean that he's thinking about, I think somewhere that the Arizona Cardinals, are doing something with his 5th-year option or whatnot, and maybe he's not liking what the verbiage is going on with his upcoming contract or whatnot. So maybe he's this is his way of saying, saying, hey man, Tampa Bay's now certainly without a quarterback. Wouldn't mind playing for them, throwing to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and OJ Howard and those guys, and that sort of thing. Only thing I gotta say is whatever happened to walking into Steve Keim's office, that's the GM, or Cliff Kingsbury's office. Like, look, man, look, I'm not happy with what's going on, man. Well, let's try to figure out what we can do going forward here, and because they've not looked good in neither of these 2 years as a starter. Towards the end of the year, they were 7-0 this year. Ended up the season 11-6, which means that they went 5-6 the last 11 games. Only game they lost in the last like half dozen games was against the Cowboys, against my guys. And they just hadn't looked good. Did not look like the same team that they were early in the season when they couldn't be stopped. The offense was unstoppable. Defense was opportunistic and were doing their thing. But this new thing that the young folks do, and I don't want to sound like some old fuddy-duddy, but this passive aggressiveness, dude, go sit down, direct. Hey, I'm not happy with what's going on. Let's figure out what we're going to do. Oh, I might have to do something different. But none of this, I'm going to take all my social media stuff down. I'm going to unfollow you. Maybe because I'm older, I got social media platforms, but I'm not doing all that stuff. If I got a problem with somebody, I'm on, hey man, can we talk? Let's figure out what our next move is. But keep an eye on that Arizona Tampa Bay thing. Let's see what's going on with that. But I didn't like that whole thing. That's just young and the restless, man. Just young folks in communication. Feel like I need to do a seminar and have all the young folks come and say, look, this is how you communicate with people. That's how you do that. But anyway, but so much of that. Now, the coaches in the NFL, all the coaching slots have been filled. Some with some controversy, some things I'm scratching my head on. Some of them I'm like, yeah, where you going with that? So let's just lay them out for you. Chicago Bears selected Matt Eberflus, who is the former defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts. Solid coach. I would have liked for them to have taken an offensive head coach because you got a young quarterback that's going to need some tutelage. I think they ended up taking Luke Gitry, who was the wide receivers coach of the Packers, to be the offensive coordinator. And he gets high marks from Devontae Adams. But, since you got Ryan Poles as the GM, you should have took Eric Bieniemy. And that way your head coach and your GM are simpatico. And then Eric Bieniemy gets to work with Justin Fields. I like that a lot better. But we'll see. Matt Eberflus is their guy. We'll see how that works. Minnesota Vikings, they have selected Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams. It's a solid hire. I know they was looking at Jim Harbaugh from the University of Michigan, but they didn't like his kind of abrasive style. He kind of has like Harbaugh's a darn good coach. Kind of has an abrasive style. Kind of not the days NFL coaches are more like cooperators, more you get everybody integrated. You get everybody kind of, it's not more of that, none of that stuff. But he's a good coach. Kevin O'Connell, look, man. Look, the Rams offense has been good. Kevin O'Connell doesn't call plays. Sean McVay calls the plays. He's only been with them a couple of years in that capacity because it was Zach Taylor before that, who's the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll see how that goes. Offensive coach. So we'll see how he works with Kirk Cousins, Darwin Cook, and Justin Jefferson. because I think Justin Jefferson said that we're looking for an offensive coach. He's looking for some of the magic that the Rams was creating. He's looking for them to inject a lot of that into the Minnesota Vikings. So that team is very talented. They're uber talented. Okay. Then you got the New York Giants selecting Brian Daboll. Big controversy with that because apparently they had selected Brian Daboll before they even hired, interviewed all the rest of the candidates. And some of the folks might say, well, and look, man, I'm not really mad at that. I'm just mad at the appearance of that. It's like saying Brian Flores is nowhere near a good enough coach to match up with Brian Daboll. And I just don't think that's the case. Brian Daboll has been a head coach before and was a successful head coach. Brian Daboll has been a great offensive mind, good play caller. Josh Allen owes all of his development to him and Ken Dorsey, who's the quarterback coach. So I believe, he's done good work with them as well as with Tua and Jalen Hurts, because Brian Daboll was at Alabama 2017 and I think 2018 and left there to come to Buffalo. So he's got a good track record of putting a good offenses together. But when you're the CEO and all things come to your doorstep, whole different thing. Brian Flores proved he could do that. So that's not a slam dunk that he was automatically better than him. But I know what they were doing because they got Joe Sheehan, who was the assistant GM of Buffalo, to come over. So they picked the coach from their team. Just like, Kansas City was trying to do for Ron Poles, get the offensive coordinator and the GM, and you're both being simpatico. But they didn't let him do that. They didn't let Ron Poles and Bieniemy do that. Have that kind of stability. If you see where I'm going with this. But yeah, but apparently the cat got out of the bag before all the candidates was even interviewed. They was gonna hire Daboll come H. And Bill Belichick let it out of the bag by selecting the wrong Brian. We've already went over that. We ain't gonna rehash that. So, and of course that led to the lawsuit that Brian Flores has put against the three teams: the Giants, the Dolphins, and the Broncos, as well as the rest of the NFL for their hiring practices. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end of this. The New Orleans Saints have selected Dennis Allen as the head coach. I think they had interviewed Eric Bieniemy. I didn't too much like that job for Eric Bieniemy, so I'm actually okay with Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen is a heck of a defensive coordinator. If you don't believe so, watch the two games they played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and see how they shut that offense down. Dennis Allen is one heck of a defensive coordinator. Now, he's had a head coaching job with the Raiders. Now, people may not know this, but Dennis Allen was with the Saints when Sean Payton first set up his coaching staff back in 2006. He was like the assistant defensive lines coach. Then he became like the secondary coach and I think assistant linebackers coach or something like that, all the way up to 2010. Then he left there in 2011 and went to the Denver Broncos to be their defensive coordinator for 1 year. Then got the head coaching job with the Los Angeles Raiders, or the Oakland Raiders. And he got off to a pretty good start, but then 2013, they lost their last 6 games of the season. I think they went like 5-11 or something like that. And then they lost their first 4 games of 2014 and then ceremoniously fired 4 games in. That's Al Davis for you. Okay. And so he in essence, he lost his last 10 games. So he went back sort of with his tail tucked between his legs, but he went back home to New Orleans in 2012 and has been there ever since as a defensive assistant. While Rob Ryan was there, Rob Ryan had like one of the worst defenses in the NFL, I think 2012, 2013. He got fired and they put him in there and as defensive coordinator / assistant head coach, and he's been there ever since. So I think that Dennis Allen will do a good job there. The defense is not going to suffer at all because they're going to have continuity and everything with that. So that's who they've selected. Miami Dolphins selected Mike McDaniel, offensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. I like the hire from the standpoint of you get an offensive guy with a lot of imagination, a lot of creativity in the offense. The Dolphins been trying to create creative with their offense for several years. Brian Flores was there last 3 years. Defenses were smothering, offenses always trying to figure some stuff out. But Mike McDaniel, and it's interesting because it was later found out that Mike McDaniel is a minority because he's listed as multi-racial. And look, Mike McDaniel didn't call any of the plays on the Denver Broncos. On the San Francisco 49ers. Shanahan calls all the plays, but he sets up all the stuff, puts in all the offense, put all that stuff, works with all of the wide receivers and different things, puts all the packages together. But make no mistake about it, Kyle Shanahan calls all the plays. So if you're looking for somebody that calls the plays and has some sorts of, that's not your guy. And I was talking to a gentleman the other day at one of my work, and he was like, well, it's better than what we had. And I'm like, you think he's better than Brian Flores? Brian Flores has actually been a head coach and was pretty good at it. We don't know if this guy's a head coach. We know he's a good offensive mind, but that don't mean he's a good head coach. There's been a lot of guys come in with good offensive mind, good offensive potential. Like when I think about Eric Bieniemy, he may not be a good head coach. Okay. He may not be, but I know as an offensive coordinator, he deserves an opportunity to be with Mike McDaniel, to be with Kevin O'Connell and some of these other guys. He deserves an opportunity to do what they do with more experience than they got. You know, I think he deserves that opportunity. But Mike McDaniel, we'll see. The thing about Mike McDaniel is he was an assistant on that staff with the Washington football team back in the early 2010s. With Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, which was his friend, and Sean McVay. All those guys were on the same team, on the same coaching staff. Okay, and then he left and went with Kyle Shanahan to the Atlanta when he took over the offensive coordinator job for the Atlanta Falcons. And of course, then when he left Atlanta after the Super Bowl debacle and took over the San Francisco 49ers in 2017, he took Mike McDaniel with him. So he's got about 15, 16 years of coaching experience. So he's not short on experience, okay? But, you know, he kind of was a wonderkin, you know, young guy. I think he was in 2005, he was like what they call an intern with the Broncos on Mike Shanahan's staff. And then when Mike Shanahan got the Washington football team at the time, Washington Redskins job, he brought him on along with his son, along with Sean McVay, along with Matt LaFleur. They were all buddies, all young guys in the game, you know, and they grew up together. So and all of them got head coaching gigs now. So it's kind of how that thing works. But the thing about McDaniel is he's a mystery, man. Can't find nothing on him in none of the social media outlets. His mom's race is not known. His dad's supposedly African American or black, but nobody knows what his name is. But even with that, there's an article where he talks about he, you know, spent summers with his paternal grandmother, which means his daddy's mother, and some of his cousins and stuff. And he was looking on the pictures, and he be the only fair colored one in the pictures. And he thought that was interesting, but we all family. You know, nobody told him that, you know, he's supposedly different, you know, whatever. But yeah, supposedly nobody knows who his dad is or his name. His mom supposedly is named Doris, but that's all we know. The only thing we knew is when he was a intern with the Broncos, his mom came to visit him at work. Or he brought her to work to meet some of his people he worked with, because, you know, he got this new job or whatever. And he introduced her to the video production guy. I think his name was like Gary Everus or something like that. And he ended up marrying his mama. But they don't tell you nothing about it. Ain't no pictures of him nowhere. You can't find jack on Mike McDaniel. It's like he was creating a test tube or something. But I'm digressing. But he's the coach of the Miami Dolphins, and we'll see what happens. You know, he's kind of, you know, nobody knows nothing about him, you know. But I know he was in Houston and went with Garrett Kubiak for a minute, was there with Clint Kubiak, who's on the Broncos staff now. That's Gary Kubiak's son. He'll be a head coach soon, too. You know that's how that thing works. And so anyhow, so we'll see what happens there. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they've hired Doug Peterson. That's a good hire. Doug Peterson needed another opportunity. He won a Super Bowl. I think Doug Peterson's a good offensive mind. He'll get a chance to work with Trevor Lawrence. I think that's a good hire. I think Leftwich might have been a better hire due to the fact they're close in proximity of ages. Byron Leftwich actually played for the Jaguars, but couldn't get past the Trent Baalke, who's the GM, and hard to work with. But, you know, he's had problems with all the coaches. When he was with the 49ers, he had problems with Chip Kelly and Tom Sula and Harbaugh. He had problems with all those guys. And so when they were interviewing Leftwich, it was a problem with Baalke because everybody knows nobody wants to work with Baalke. He wants to bring one of his own guys from Tampa to work with him, and they wouldn't let that happen. Just like they didn't let, Ryan Poles bring his coach, So sometimes you don't get the same things other folks, opportunities, and other folks getting. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. But Doug Peterson's a good hire. I like this hire, and we'll see how that goes. And I think he'll bring some stability, a good, good solid fundamental coaching. I think he'll bring that, and I think Trevor Lawrence will be in good hands with Doug Peterson. Here's some of the interesting ones. You got Houston selecting Lovie Smith. Now, supposedly, this is where the get deep. Now, supposedly, let me just say this. Lovie Smith was a defensive coordinator on the team, and it was a choice between him, Josh McCown, and Brian Flores. And so they ended up going with Lovie Smith, a solid choice and a good solid coach. Didn't do so well at Tampa Bay. Didn't do so well in Illinois. I think it was like 17-39 in like 5 years or something like that. Something like that. It was not good. He was there he had like one good bowl season, and then the other seasons weren't so good. He's 63. Started to grow his beard out. I was like, dude, get rid of that, man. You look like an old man. You whatever. But anyhow, so I think that was a safe hire, and I think they did that hire to kind of avoid the storm that was brewing over this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So they got Lovie Smith, and we'll talk about that hire. Then the Denver Broncos, they selected Nathaniel Hackett, who was the Nathaniel Hackett, who was the offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. And he also brought with him Justin Olsen, who was the tight ends coach from the Green Bay Packers, to be the offensive coordinators. You know what that might be saying? Look, everybody knows Nathaniel Hackett was given that job. No, don't get me wrong. I think Nathaniel Hackett is a good coach. I think he's solid. He's been around the block a lot. His dad, Paul Hackett, was a great offensive mind. Your dad's a coach. That's coaching is kind of in you. I get all that. But make no mistake about it. If Nathaniel Hackett, I keep on calling him Hackett. If Nathaniel Hackett didn't have access to Aaron Rodgers, I guarantee you they would have probably hired Dan Quinn. They might have hired Eric Bieniemy, because I know he interviewed for that job as well. But the idea, if you bring Hackett in there, bring a couple of his assistants on his offensive staff when he was at Green Bay, gives that offense a little bit of a Green Bay comfortability. That makes that choice of Aaron Rodgers when he's making his decision where he might want to go, because they also lost their wide receivers coach to the Bears. So quite a few coaches have left. They did promote Adam Stalovich, who was I think he was the passing game coordinator. They made him running game coordinator. I'm sorry. They made him the offensive coordinator. So that they kept one of the major coaches on the staff. I guess I don't know if that's going to appeal to Aaron or not, but anyway, they got Nathan Hackett as the coach. And then the Las Vegas Raiders have selected Josh McDaniel as their head coach. We know Josh McDaniel was coach of the Denver Broncos back in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, I think. And he got fired for cheating. And he was offensive coordinator on the offensive staff of the St. Louis Rams. And then he went back to the Patriots, and then he supposedly 3 years ago was supposedly taking a job with the Indianapolis Colts before they selected Frank Reich. But then when they was having a press conference to introduce him, he probably sent a fax or a text or whichever one that says, you know what, I'm gonna stay here in New England. Who does that? I know certain people couldn't get away with doing that, but I'm not gonna get into that. Okay. So all our coaching hires are done. So let's talk about them. So in lieu of the lawsuit, and I think the lawsuit has merit. I think Brian Flores may have been just a smidge hasty in doing it, because I think he might have got one of these last few jobs, but when he did that, it basically took him off the market for a lot of these jobs. I think he could have easily have gotten the Houston Texans job. I think he could have got that job. I think he could have even gotten the Minnesota Vikings job, because it hadn't been gotten yet. And he could have gotten the Raiders job, because that hadn't been gotten yet. Okay. And Josh McDaniel actually spoke about him. He said, man, he loves Brian Flores. He said, because they coached together for several years on the New England Patriots staff. And he was saying, his attention to detail, he always is going to do the right thing. He's always going to do, say the right thing. He's going to do, he's just a stand-up guy and all that. He was glowing about him in one of his interviews when he was, talking on the circuit. When you get a head coaching job, you do the talk circuit. So Josh McDaniel was doing the talk circuit. And of course, people going to ask him about Brian Flores, because they worked together for like 6, 7, 8 years in New England. Right? So here it is. So here's the thing, and it all goes back to this Houston job, because the Houston job got some issues. Okay, and look, I love Lovie Lee Smith. That's his name. 63, former head coach of the Chicago Bears. Took the Chicago Bears to the Super Bowl in 2006. Coach of the year in 2005. And has an 83-68 record, 83-69 record. So he's a positive, winning percentage. I think he's a good, solid coach. But Lovie Smith wasn't even on the horizon until after these allegations came down. So I'm not going to disparage Lovie, because I think Lovie's deserving of a job, because I think he's solid. He's as good as some of these other guys that have gotten jobs. But I think what has happened is the Josh McCown thing. And the Josh McCown thing just rubs me the wrong way, fam. And I know people want to, make it, because I saw somebody on one of the message boards talking about, he didn't get the job because he's white. So isn't that racist? And I'm like, no, but the fact that he's actually been interviewed twice, because he got interviewed in 2021 when they decided to select David Culley, who was fired at 4-13, which I thought that was unceremoniously, because if you look at the Houston Texans roster, they jettisoned all of their veterans, from Zach Cunningham to Merciless to Watt, all those guys, and plus, you don't have Deshaun Watson, Randall Cobb. It was a bunch of guys. There's a bunch of Mark Ingram. It's a bunch of veteran guys, that you would love to have on your team. JJ Watt, not TJ Watt. JJ Watt, Whitney Merciless, 2 top sack leaders in Texans history. And we know, they got rid of Hopkins, but that was Bill O'Brien's deal. So he's gone. Deshaun Watson's gone. Then they let go of, like I said, Merciless, J.J. Watt, Zach Cunningham, who's a starter for the Tennessee Titans on their defense. Okay. And like I said, Randall Cobb and Mark Ingram and a whole bunch of other guys. So you got a bunch of young guys. Really, that's what you do when you're tanking. You get rid of the established veterans. And you know that Tyrod Taylor got hurt, so they're playing Davis Mills. So you got a rookie quarterback and all these young players. What the heck do you think was going to happen? They're going to lose games. But suddenly they won a lot of games. They beat the Texans. They beat the Titans. They beat the Los Angeles Chargers. Almost beat the Patriots. They beat 4 teams that they had no business beating. And they beat the Jaguars twice, who I thought the Jaguars had more talent than them. But, and I thought they played hard in a lot of those games, but they fired Cully. But anyway, the thing is, Josh McCown was rumored to be coaching, to be interviewed to be coaching back in 2021. And then when it came around again, when they fired Cully, he was on the thing and he got 2 or 3 interviews. And I think that if this thing with Brian Flores didn't go down, they'd have hired Josh McCown, because really, they really was going to fire Lovey and all the coaching staff, because, when you fire the head coach, the coaching staff you to go too. All right. But here's the thing with Josh McCown. And I'm not trying to knock nobody, because look, I was watching, one of my video content that I look at, Mike Fisher, which is a Cowboy information, with cowboysi.com. And there were some people talking about Deion Sanders becoming the Cowboys coach, because Jerry Jones was not happy with the job that Mike McCarthy did, and everybody scoffed. Deion Sanders being a head coach? He just coaching at HBCU Jackson State, who went 11-2, and he's among the best recruiters in college football. Hanging 5 stars with some of the bigger schools and doing a good job with them. And I think he's going to do a good job, put together a good staff, but even I thought, like, that when rumors was coming out about him getting one of the Division I programs, Florida State, because they thought they was going to fire Mike Norwell. And I was like, no, that's his alma mater, but I don't think he's ready for Florida State. Give him a couple of years at Jackson State, get his coaching, Jones going and lather up, and then we'll see, in a couple of years if that's what he wants to do, if he wants to do that. But if he wants to build up the HBCUs and build up their brands or whatever, which I totally endorse, I got no problem with that. But I would have thought, I can't see Deion being a head coach in the NFL. But it's amazing that a lot of Caucasian folks did not have a problem with Josh McCown being considered for a head coaching position in the NFL. Now, at least Deion Sanders got some head coaching credentials at the college level. Josh McCown is a quarterback's coach for his son's high school team. Not even a head coach. He is a high school coach. Yeah, he played for 17, 18 years or whatever. Deion Sanders played for 15, 16 years and has coached AAU ball for several years, and that sort of thing. So, but I would not think, sensible me, like, nah, Deion ain't ready for no head coaching job. I didn't think he's ready for a head coaching job at Division I yet. Let him do, Jackson State for 4 or 5 years and get that program up and going, and then let's see where this thing goes. But y'all had no problem saying, what's wrong with Josh McCown? Yeah, y'all think that's interesting. And I think that is an insult to all of the coaches that have put in the work. That's an insult to the guys that put in the work, African Americans and the whites and others who worked, and to guys like Mike McDaniel, who put in 18, 15, 16, 17 years. Guys like Brian Flores, who worked 14, 15 years for New England and 3 years as a head coach for the Dolphins. And you're going to bring some high school coach who's not even a head coach at the high school level, and you're going to put the whole team on him. And you think that was going to fly. Okay. The fact that people think that that's a good thing is, or think that what's wrong with that, tells me y'all ain't thinking right. Because I didn't think Deion being a head coach was a smart thing. I said, 5, 6 years maybe. Well, let's see what he do. But y'all said, yeah, we can get Josh now. What's wrong with it? Yeah, y'all didn't hire him because he's a white kid. He's a white guy. That's racist. I'm like, no, the fact that they're even considering him with high school quarterback coach for a year credentials for a head coaching job makes it stupid that you were thinking of even hiring him. If I'm a Texan season ticket holder, I'm selling my tickets if you do that. Okay. But here's the kicker. Rumor has it that after they hired Lovie Smith, they put Josh McCown on his staff. Man, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen with that. Lovie Smith is gonna coach his butt off, but the team's not talented. They're gonna accumulate draft picks. They're gonna probably get a couple of draft picks for Deshaun Watson when they trade him. And then next year they're gonna have the number 1 pick. They're gonna probably draft either C.J. Stroud from Ohio State or my boy Bryce Young from Alabama, because they are franchise quarterbacks. And then they're going to parlay them picks that they get for Deshaun Watson into a couple of nice draft picks. And then when that team's ready to win, they're going to cut Lovie Smith off and put Josh McCown in as the head coach, so that he can be the head coach at the helm when they have success. That's what they're going to do. Everybody knows what they're going to do. Everybody seems to know that but Lovie, Or maybe Lovie said, look, man, I'm just going to coach 2 more years to my 65th, and I'm out of here anyway. So maybe, they made Lovie a deal to look at, man, we'll give you this nice bonus. You do this, whatever, and just hang this, just do this for us. Because they couldn't hire Brian Flores, and with all this stuff going on from the heat that Brian Flores brought on, they couldn't have hired Josh McCown with no head coaching experience, period, and giving him a head coaching job when all these African Americans been coaching. You're looking at the Eric Bieniemy, you're looking at the man at Tampa Bay, Byron Leftwich, and you're looking at Todd Bowles, you looking at those guys, and you're looking at Pep Hamilton, who is going to be the offensive coordinator, who was a quarterback's coach, who's been a quarterback's coach, offensive coordinator all the way back to when the Indianapolis Colts had Luck. And he's been there, and then he got fired from there, ended up going to head coach in one of these defunct leagues, and then he came back and went to the Los Angeles Chargers, helped work with Herbert. But of course, when they fired my man, the head coach there, he got fired too, but he ended up with the Texans as the quarterback coach. Of course, now when they fired, I think his name is Luke something. I can't think what the head coach, offensive coach. They fired him, but because the offense was not good, but then they promoted Pep Hamilton to be the offensive coordinator. Pep Hamilton is more qualified to be a head coach than McCown. I'm sorry, And then a lot of these other guys, are more qualified than McCown. I think McCown is just because he's a Texas boy, grew up in Jacksonville, Texas. He's just the guy that they want. I mean, he's just a favorite son of that area. Went to Texas A&M, and Sam Houston State. He did all that stuff. And so, yeah, they really want him. He's a good old boy. He's one of ours. And we'll rally behind him, but he got no experience. And those are the kind of things that it really is at the crux of why Brian Flores filed the lawsuit. Now, you can like it or not, but though it's that thing, the fact that you thought it was okay to hire this guy with no experience, but hold all these guys back and keep moving the goalposts is why you want to hire. Oh, they're not calling plays, so I'm not going to hire them. But Mike McDaniel didn't call plays. Matt LaFleur didn't call plays. Matt Nagy didn't call plays. Matt LaFleur calls plays now. Okay. Matt Nagy didn't call plays. Kevin O'Connell don't call plays. None of them guys call plays. But they was able to ascend that ladder very quickly. Okay. So, I hate to keep, knocking this, beating this horse to death. It's sort of like that AT&T commercial, and I'm gonna end with this, and we're gonna be done, and then we're gonna talk about there's a game this Sunday, ain't it? It's sort of like the AT&T commercial with what's her name, Valtraub, Liliana Valtraub. Y'all know the commercials, where they talk about where it's one commercial where the father, the wife, husband, the wife, the little girl, and the adolescent boy come in. And really, the comparisons, really, with the commercials is about how other cellular services, they differentiate between new customers and old customers. New customers, because they're trying to get new business, they get all these deals, but the people who've been with them for 20 years get the same old crusty deals. He said, well, everybody's getting a new deal. So I said, isn't everybody getting a new deal? He said, all the other ones say they're doing it. He said, but what if I gave you this deal, and then I gave you this deal? And the little girl said, that's not fair. And what it was, she gave the little girl a little lollipop, but she gave her brother a big, pretty lollipop. And she said, that's not fair. And she said, that's right. So she took it and gave her back the lollipop comparable to the size of the one her brother has. But the problem is, and I mean, y'all can hate me if you want to, but white folks been getting the big sucker all the time for no reason other than somebody that's decided to give it to you. You've been getting the big lollipop, getting the big sucker and then when we complain about getting the small sucker under the similar circumstances, what are you complaining about? Couldn't he have worked harder and got his figured out? And then I'm like, it's just like the commercial. She gave the son the bigger sucker just because she just decided to give the son the bigger sucker. He didn't earn the bigger sucker. He just got the bigger sucker. And many times I think they make us feel bad for complaining about getting inferior treatment because they feel like, well, we got the bigger sucker because we got the big sucker. You should just be happy to be getting one. Be happy you getting something. You're not supposed to be getting what we get. And I'm sorry, I got to be fair. That's the way it is. Josh McCown getting a head coaching job with no experience is getting a big sucker. Eric Bieniemy, 5-6 years on Super Bowl winning teams as an offensive coordinator, not getting one is a little sucker. It just is. All right? Jim Caldwell not getting a job, even though he's a 62-50 record and has gone to a Super Bowl, is a little sucker. Okay? Kevin O'Connell never called plays, but he's a head coach. Big sucker. I don't know why y'all don't see that. I don't get it. Okay? You're getting the big sucker. Admit that. That's the whole thing with it. Admit you getting the big sucker. Nobody's trying to make y'all giving you guilt trip on it, but just admit you getting a big sucker. That's the only thing. Just admit, yeah, dang on. Yeah, I'm kind of getting the big sucker here. And yeah, dude, you kind of have put in your dues and they kind of did, just admit that. Sometimes folks don't want to admit that. It make you feel like, oh, you just ain't trying hard enough, man. Just try harder. And folks don't realize most time African-American folks got to daggum take a flight to fly the stuff that y'all just walk across the pond to get to. We fly the stuff that y'all just walk to. It's the truth. Uncle Fred been here a while. I can tell you how them things work, how it roll. And it just roll, and people just get that sucker, that big old sucker, and just roll on and think that's how it's supposed to be like that. And everybody else, you ain't supposed to get this, what I get. You ain't supposed to get that. And it's the truth. When you actually look at the thing and really examine it, take the hatred, take the animosity, take all of that, Now, as far as these owners and stuff doing, look, like I said before, if I done spent $2.5 to $3 billion of my money, you ain't gonna tell me who I'm gonna hire. I'm gonna hire who I want to hire. Okay, that's the thing. So I do see that side too. But while I'm saying that, if I'm an owner and I want to appeal to everybody, I'm trying to hire people of every demographic that I can find to do key things. I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket because that may not appeal to the other 85% of the population, or other, whatever. So, and like I said, it's onus to African Americans and other minorities. Look, man, there's a lot of African Americans, a lot of minorities that in sports and entertainment fields, and leaders of industry, like my man John, I think it's John Smith, and is trying to buy the Broncos. He's a multi-billionaire. Him and 2 or 3 other people put together a package. Let's get a team, and then you can look at guys like LeBron James, Steph Curry, Puffy Combs, guys with $1 billion, with multi-$100 million. Put some of that money together, buy a team, and then you can kind of, you can do some stuff, And like I said, don't be consumers, be investors, have an investment mentality. I keep saying it. But let's see how this thing goes. And I didn't want to browbeat y'all too much with that, but dude, I gotta call a spade a spade. I gotta call a thing like I see it. And I wouldn't be me if I didn't, tell the truth. So, whatever. There's a game this weekend, ain't it? Oh, it's a game, man. I think it's a game. I'm gonna turn on about 5:30 on Sunday to see. I think it's a game. Oh yeah, Super Bowl 56 in SoFi Stadium, Los Angeles, California. Actually, it's Inglewood, California. Hard to believe. I was in 2017. I was visiting with cousins out there in Los Angeles, and they showed me the site where they was building that thing. It was an empty field. Hard to believe. Just 4 years later, this thing's up and running. Been up running 2 years, and hosting a freaking Super Bowl. Hard to believe. It don't seem like that long ago. I was out there looking at the field in Inglewood, it's right off the freeway. I said, look, that's where they're gonna build a stadium, right there. And it's an empty field, right? It's right down the street from the old Great Western Forum, right down the street from the Great Western Forum where the Lakers used to play. So all that's in the same vicinity. But anyway, game's gonna be Sunday. And I know people want to know what Uncle Fred think about the game, who I think's gonna win, what I look for as keys. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be one of the great games. One you can't really put a finger on, because I can see I got as many ways I think Cincinnati could win it as I think that the Rams could win it. I think Cincinnati is that team that you think they can't do it, but Joe Burrow is something. Joe Burrow special, man. I don't care what nobody says. Joe Burrow is Joe Cool. He's a cool customer, man. And they got just enough offensive weapons with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins, and then and I don't know if Ujamaa going to play or not. He got knocked out in the AFC Championship game. We'll see. He's a big coming down the seams tight end that check downs that Joe Burrow likes to get, and he can get deep a little bit too. So then you got my man in the backfield. I can't think of his name. Y'all know who he is. It'll come to me in a minute. But they got just enough, and Samaje Perine. They got just enough offensive firepower to make it interesting. The key is going to be whether the offensive line can block well enough. If they can just give Joe just a little bit of time. Joe Mixon, that's his name, Joe Mixon. That's how my mind works. If they can just give him just a little bit of time. And their defense is opportunistic. You got Hendricks and Hubbard, and then you got Jesse Bates and Von Bell and Wouzier. They got some good players on defense. They underrated defensively, okay? And I can see a scenario where Joe is just methodical, puts them in the right plays, goes right down the field, and I can see a scenario where Matthew Stafford throw 2 or 3 interceptions and the Cincinnati rolls them. I can see that, okay? I can see a situation where Matthew Stafford, along with Cooper Kupp and OBJ and maybe Tyler Higbee, maybe he can play too. It's interesting. The 2 tight ends is out or limited or had the same MCL injuries in their respective championship games. But if Matthew Stafford can avoid the mistakes and just take the checkdowns when they're there, the offensive line is good. Cam Akers is running good. You got those 2, and then you got Van Jefferson. If they can just eliminate the mistakes, I think they got enough offensive firepower to score 35 points. And then if they with Gaines, Aaron Donald, Floyd, Sean Robinson, if they can put pressure on with Von Miller, and then if you can lock what's my man's name, the receiver for Cincinnati, Jamar Chase. If Ramsey can lock him down, or they could maybe roll coverage to him and then put him on T. Higgins, who's a big receiver, or Boyd, who's a big receiver, and roll your double coverage to them to the other side. If they could get pressure on Burrow, I could see the Rams running away with it. But I think it's going to be a little bit. I think that game is going to be several games in one. I think it's going to be sections of the game where Burrow get pressured and he can't make throws. And I think it's going to be sections of the game where they make necessary adjustments and Burrow can throw a couple of touchdowns and get the offense going. I think Matthew Stafford does throw an interception in this game to get them behind, but I think he digs them out. And I think ultimately, when you put all it together, I got the Rams winning 35-31. 35-31 Rams. But would I be surprised if it go 38-33 Bengals? Not at all. Not at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So I'll check back with you guys on Sunday evening or maybe Monday and see what goes on with the Super Bowl and see if my prediction comes to pass. And we'll see. But it's going to be a great game, man. And then we'll keep you up to posted on these other NFL news as these things develop, man. But then we got the draft coming up in about a month or two. So we got a lot going on. And before you know it, they're gonna be kicking it off again for preseason. And it's all over. It's gonna start all over again. Like Groundhog Day, right? But that's all I got from the desk of Uncle Fred. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Become a part of the Uncle Fred Sports Experience. Trying to give you the best content in the NFL and other sports. We're going to get into some NBA and stuff as the trade deadline and stuff comes. We're going to get into some of that too. Trying to give you the best content. Give you a little story here or there too. Trying to do a little bit of that. And, we try to give you what we got and try to give you a good product. Please like, comment, subscribe. And we'll catch y'all on the next video.